everybody. Thanks so much for having me here. I had an amazing day yesterday. I drove by myself all the way up to Geiranger, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and then drove down the Trolls Pass, which was an incredible experience, a little bit scary when I looked back at my camera and saw what I had taken a picture of. I want to start out by asking a quick question, and feel free to answer honestly. You will not offend me. I don't care if you actually support Obama or not. As you'll see, this speech is not intended to make you love Obama. It's intended to educate you about what goes into building a grassroots movement. But how many of you like Mitt Romney? Raise your hand. All right, I see one. How many of you like Barack Obama? All right, please immigrate to America immediately. We need your votes. Anyway, so I'm going to start out by playing a quick video that I helped produce on the 2008 campaign that I think really speaks to the essence of what we were trying to do. I'll step out of your way.
This election isn't going to be about changing parties. It's going to be about living for every other American. That's what gives me hope.
I don't want a nation just for me. I want a nation for everybody.
You can't walk away and not feel hope and not feel that glimmer of light again.
I don't think I was ever this interested in the voting process.
It's the first time I've ever felt compelled to be part of a movement such as this.
I'm going to get them back involved in this process, the grassroots level first, and then let it go. That's going to make me happy.
Organizing ourselves. The campaign helps us. They're there to help us, but we're organizing ourselves.
It is the relationships that we have with one another that is our strength.
I think for a long time I had given up that we could work together to make change in this country.
I've been involved in politics, I've seen politicians, but this is different.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is no ordinary time. This is no ordinary election. And this may be our last chance to reclaim the America we love.
We are one people. We are one nation. And together, we will begin the next great chapter in the American story with words that will ring from coast to coast, from sea to shining sea. Yes, we can.
Okay, so what's missing from this video? Right. That's pretty strange, right? That I told you I was going to show you a video that spoke to the essence of the Obama campaign, and you didn't see Obama's face. It's a pretty weird thing to do. But it was a very deliberate choice on the part of our team. We wanted to demonstrate the core message of the campaign. This is not about one man. This is not about Barack Obama. This is about you. This is about ordinary people. This is about building a grassroots movement. All right, so how did this whole thing happen? How did we elect the first African-American president? What makes a movement? And of course, what role did the internet play? That's what I'm going to be talking about today. But before I get into the specifics, I want to just give you a little bit of a sense of the landscape that we were facing when we started out the campaign in 2007. We knew that, we had a pretty exciting candidate, but it was not anyone's expectation that he was going to win early on. In fact, a lot of people thought that I was crazy to leave my job. in New York and moved to Chicago and work for this almost Don Quixote-style campaign. They thought it was naive. And of course, we were going up some of the strongest challengers ever in the Democratic field. John Edwards, who now is a joke and a punchline, was an extremely strong candidate. Many people thought he would win. He was John Kerry's vice presidential nominee in the previous election. He was getting a lot of support from the labor unions and from the traditional left and from the blogosphere and the online communities. Hilary Clinton, strongest brand name in political history up to the point, before Obama at least, right? The Clinton brand, globally recognized. She was probably the strongest Democratic candidate ever. And many people expected her to win. She was locking up the major endorsements from governors and senators, and a former president named Bill Clinton was supporting her. And she was getting a lot of the major donors, the people who write the big fat checks, the heads of businesses and companies, the lawyers, et cetera, were supporting her. Not so many were supporting Obama early on. It's pretty obvious why. People want their investment to pay off, and they didn't think Obama was going to win. And most importantly, the media was declaring Hillary Clinton inevitable. That was the buzzword in 2007, the inevitability of Hillary Clinton's victory. So that's what we were facing. But we had something that they didn't have. This. We had tens of thousands of people showing up to our earliest rallies. The first rally we had was in Texas. That's the state George Bush comes from, not exactly a place where a lot of liberals and left-wing people live. But 23,000 people showed up to hear Obama speak in Texas. There were people literally climbing trees to get a view of him. There were that many people. So we knew that we had this extraordinary grassroots energy, but that wasn't enough. We had to figure out how to harness that energy, right? The sun is, I guess that's an appropriate metaphor. There's a lot of energy in the sun, but how do we harness that energy? How do we win, right? It's not enough to get people excited. There have been lots of politicians who have excited people, particularly young people, and they haven't figured out how to organize those people. They haven't figured out how to channel that enthusiasm into tangible victory. So that was our obsession. How do we win? How do we take this movement and turn it into something real? The core principle that we thought about day in and day out was community organizing. I had never heard of what a community organizer was before the campaign, and it was only by joining the campaign and reading Obama's book that I understood what it meant. Obama took an unusual path into politics. Most people, like Mitt Romney, they get very wealthy. They go to Wall Street, or they become a corporate lawyer. They gain a lot of wealth, and they use their wealth and power to, finance their own campaigns and meet other wealthy and powerful people. Or they go to Washington, D.C., and they climb up the ladder of power. They intern for a politician. They move their way up. Obama did the opposite. He went to the least powerful place in America, the ghetto of the south side of Chicago, one of the poorest neighborhoods in the country. And he organized ordinary people to fight for better housing, to fight against environmental waste that was being poured into their backyards. He was a community organizer, and what he meant by that was that he brought ordinary people who by themselves had no power, no connections, and he brought them together, and when ordinary people came together, he said they could do extraordinary things. So we took that idea, that community organizing idea, and it ran like electricity through the campaign. Every single decision we made, we said, how would a community organizer think? How can we build ordinary people into one collective mass of extraordinary power? That was our mission. So I'll talk about some of the principles that went into empowering ordinary people and building this movement. Authenticity was critical to me and to everyone in the campaign. As the chief blogger, as somebody who oversaw the storytelling, I wanted to make sure that everything we did felt real. Why? Because Obama was a candidate that struck people as a real human being. We had 8 years of George W. Bush, who spoke to people like they were children. Obama spoke to people like they were intelligent, like they were adults. He had this freshness. When people saw him in 2004 at the Democratic National Convention, they said, wow, this guy speaks like a real human being, not like a typical politician. So I wanted to make sure that we preserve that spirit of authenticity in all of the content on BarackObama.com, on our Facebook account, on our Twitter account, on YouTube. We weren't going to put your ordinary, cheesy, tacky political commercials on. We didn't want to use the same cliches you hear from every single politician year after year, the kind of thing people tune out. Instead, we wanted to tell real stories of real people. And that's what we did over and over and over again. I wrote thousands of blog posts, and many of them never even really mentioned Obama. They were centered on the stories of people like this guy, like his name is Rashid. He was our 75,000th donor. This happened in March of 2007. I remember this moment. I looked at my boss and I said, wow, we got 75,000 donors. Who would have ever thought that was possible? Guess what? By the end, we had over 3 million donors. But at the time, 75,000 seemed amazing. And we said, you know, rather than just looking at this as an abstract number, why don't we take a magnifying glass and zoom in on this 75,000th person and tell his story? Because you know what? I bet he has an extraordinary story. Almost everyone who was donating to the campaign or getting involved in volunteering was doing it for the first time in their lives. They were inspired to get involved in a political campaign and to donate money for the first time in their lives. We do not have a tradition of donating money to politicians in the United States. There are very few countries in the world where ordinary people want to donate to politicians. Why? Well, it's hard enough to get people to donate to a charity. But at least when you donate to a charity, you think, well, at least my money is going to go to feed hungry people or whatever. If you donate to a politician, first of all, he might lose. Then you wasted your money. He also might win and then abandon all of his campaign promises, and you wasted your money as well. So you have to have a leap of faith. You have to really believe that this politician is different. You have to believe that you're part of a movement and that your donation means more than just a financial transaction. So we told stories of people like Rashid, who had a young African-American daughter, who used to ask him, she said, Daddy, you know, can I be anything I want when I grow up? And like any father or any mother, any parent, he wanted to say yes, of course, because no parent wants to limit their children's dreams. But he felt that as an African American, it would be disingenuous, it would be dishonest, and that he would be lying to his child if he said, you can be anything you want. Because no one had ever been a president of color before. It seemed impossible just a little while ago. And when Obama declared his candidacy for the presidency, he felt that for the first time he could look his daughter in the eye and say, yes, you can actually be anything you want. You can dream as widely as possible. So we were very inspired by that story. We posted it on the blog. We posted it on our Facebook account, and we saw this extraordinary response. Whenever we posted a story like this, thousands of people volunteered to tell us their stories. We collected almost 500,000 stories from people all over the country talking about why they got inspired, talking about the struggles they faced in their community and their families, but why they felt hope for the first time in a very long time that things could change. We also told stories on video. We uploaded over 2,000 videos, which is 5 times as many as the other campaigns combined. Overall, 1 billion minutes of web video content were consumed. That's a lot of minutes, and it was virtually free. We spent a lot of energy telling stories of ordinary people on video. We made one video of just a regular college kid, not a celebrity, a regular college kid in South Carolina. We told his story. It took us a month to produce this video. It wasn't getting tons of hits on YouTube. A lot of people thought we were insane. They said, why the hell is Obama's campaign making these videos of ordinary people? Why don't they do, the normal thing, get LeBron James or Jay-Z to make an endorsement, or Paris Hilton to make an endorsement video. That's what worked in the past. Why don't they make a really fancy, nice video with tons of great graphics, and invest in something like that? Why are they wasting their time telling stories of people who aren't famous and aren't powerful? And these criticisms were constant, and we didn't get a lot of traffic at first. But we continued to believe in this idea that telling these real stories, that sticking to this authenticity was critical. And by the end, we had by far the most trafficked website, the most trafficked blog, and we had, like I said, 1 billion minutes of web video content were consumed, which, by the way, would take 2,000 straight years to look at all of that video. And think about the difference between watching a YouTube video and being interrupted from what you want to watch, either American Idol or Eurovision or whatever it is, and have to watch some really annoying political television ad. Nobody wants to watch that. Everyone turns down the volume when they get interrupted. YouTube is the opposite experience. Instead of being interrupted, you usually watch a video because a friend or a family member or somebody you trust sent it to you and said, this is good, this is worth your time. Take a look at this. It comes with that personal stamp of endorsement, and it makes you want to watch it. So, and it's free. I mean, it costs nothing to make these videos and to put them online. One really interesting thing we found was we exploded this myth that the only kind of video that goes viral online is a funny video that's 30 seconds long, a short funny video, maybe a video involving a kitten jumping into a bowl of spaghetti or something like that. This is the usual stuff that goes viral online. Actually, our most successful video was a 37-minute long speech that Obama gave on the most complicated, awkward topic in America, race. Right? Obama gave a speech about race relations, the big elephant in the room, and it was 37 minutes long, and 7.5 million people watched it. I actually have to update this slide. Over 10 million people watched this video, the whole way through. So we showed that people actually had a hunger for serious, thoughtful content, not just silly stuff, which was the reputation of the internet in the past. I'm going to speed up a little bit. The other key thing was that we tried to make as much of our content personal as possible. We wanted people to feel a direct personal connection to it. So by the end of the campaign, I started out blogging by myself. By the end of the campaign, I was overseeing dozens of paid and volunteered bloggers from every single state. We had blogs for Women for Obama blog. We had ethnic groups, Latinos.barackobama.com, African-Americans.barackobama.com, Jews.barackobama.com. We had people of faith for Obama, Muslims for Obama. I mean, literally, you name it, we had it. We had a blog for every single state in the country, Ohio.barackobama.com. And on that blog, we talked about the issues that are important to Ohio. It's an industrial state where people are losing jobs. In Vermont, where it's a farming state, we talked about farm policy. We really tried to serve people content that would be as relevant to them as possible, and we really believed that campaign was the glue that held the campaign, the content was the glue that held the campaign together. There was no way we were going to get people to come back to our website or come back to our Facebook page day after day if they weren't getting fresh stories and fresh content. There was no way that we could inspire them to take action without stories. So it was absolutely critical, and a lot of companies and organizations come to me and they say, how can we, get people to buy our stuff or to take action? Well, I say, you have to tell them stories. You have to give them a reason to want to take action in the first place. But that's not enough. You have to do more. You have to show that you respect your followers. We gave our supporters extraordinary access into high-level information on the campaign. The most important story that all of the journalists wanted to know after Obama beat Hilary Clinton was, who is going to be the vice presidential nominee? Everyone wanted to know. Every day for weeks and weeks, the office was getting phone calls from nosy reporters who were saying, please tell me the secret. Who's going to be Obama's vice presidential pick? It's a big deal. Second most powerful man in the United States, one of the most powerful people in the world. And we decided to do something very unusual. The ordinary way that you reveal some big piece of news like that is you find, the top journalist in America, someone from the New York Times or CNN or whatever, and you give them the scoop. You give them the information first. And in theory, they reward you by writing, softer, fluffier, positive pieces about Obama in the future. That's kind of the old, the game. We said, forget that. We're going to do something different. We're going to tell our supporters first. All they have to do is give us their SMS number, and we will text them the second Obama makes his decision. So one of the top journalists in the country called me and said, come on, just tell me, please. And I said, you know what? Just sign up for the text message program like everyone else, and then you can find out first. This is the text message that we sent, alerting people that Joe Biden was the vice presidential nominee. We sent it at like 3 a.m. Another critical thing was to treat our supporters like high-level staffers. I'm just going to show you a very quick freeze frame of this video. It's too boring to show you the long video. This is our campaign manager, David Plouffe. Many of you probably have seen him on television. He's now one of the top advisors in the White House. David Plouffe recorded these videos about once every 2 weeks. They were set up in his office. They were literally shot on the camera from a Mac. It was made to feel like a Skype conversation. It was low lighting. That's really his office. It's really messy. There's paper and crap all over the place. He didn't even clean it up, right? We didn't shoot with nice lights. We had terrible production values on purpose. We wanted it to feel intimate. What David Plouffe was doing in this particular video was revealing very detailed information about how we were going to spend campaign donation money, $10 million worth of campaign donations that came from ordinary people, how we were going to spend that money in the state of Florida, which is a critical state to win in the US elections. He was revealing pretty sensitive information about specifically how much was going to television versus print. And again, a lot of people said, that's insane. What the hell is the Obama campaign thinking? That's like playing a game of chess and saying, I'm going to move my rook over here, and then I'm going to move my knight on the next move. You know, and when you do that, your opponent will destroy you in chess, right? So that's what a lot of people said. And David Plouffe said it's true. The McCain campaign is going to watch this video, and they are going to immediately readjust their strategy, their marketing strategy, and their television buys based on this video. And, you know, the old rules of politics would have said, that's insane, never do that. But we were playing a different game. David Plouffe said, I don't care if the McCain campaign gets a temporary advantage, because what we're doing is building this profound trust in our user base. We are getting our ordinary supporters to feel that they have a seat at the table at the highest level of the campaign, that they effectively were sitting in a meeting with the most important person on the campaign other than Obama and Joe Biden and getting this exclusive information. That's how we built trust with our supporters. Every time we sent out one of these videos, and trust me, this video is way too boring for you to watch, but our supporters loved these things because they gave this critical information, and we would see spikes of engagement every time we sent out one of these videos. More donations, more volunteer signups. It's also important, if you want to build a movement, to listen to people. And sometimes the listening is a positive form of listening. You know, asking people for their policy suggestions, asking people for ideas, asking people to contribute to the campaign. So how many people have seen this Hope poster? I'm sure all of you have seen that Hope poster, right? We did not create that. That came from a supporter. We saw that on the internet, and we emailed the guy. We said, hey, we like this. Is it okay if we make it an official piece of content? How many people have seen the Yes We Can video? You don't have to raise your hand. I'm sure a lot of you have seen that. Same thing. We didn't even know that it was being created. I got woken up at 5 in the morning by dozens of people emailing me saying, you have to put this Yes We Can video on the blog. But we didn't create these things. We weren't arrogant enough to think that only we could create, you know, good content, that only we knew how to do the best kind of marketing for Obama. We asked our supporters to help out, and we embraced their user-generated content when it was good. And by the way, there was a lot of crap user-generated content, too, that we didn't embrace. But here's the critical thing. Sometimes listening means listening to criticism. Sometimes people don't like what you're doing. Sometimes you're not the genius you thought you were. And sometimes even your most enthusiastic supporters get a little angry with you. So Obama changed his mind in the last couple months of his campaign. He changed his mind on an issue that a lot of people were very passionate about. It was a piece of legislation called FISA, F-I-S-A. It was an intelligence bill that would allow the government to look at people's phone records. It was, in Obama's mind, it was an anti-terrorism measure, but a lot of people thought that it was an invasion of privacy. So, what happened? Well, we did something, again, quite unusual for a campaign. We created a website called my.barackobama.com, where anybody who wanted to could create a blog, or could create a group, or could create even basically a petition on our website. No other campaign really did this because it's too risky. If you allow anyone who wants to write a blog on a presidential candidate's website, they might write something crazy. You know, they might attack you, or they might make you look bad. So most candidates who are obsessed with control would never do that. But we decided to let go of some control, and what we got in return was this amazing grassroots energy. So the people who are angry about Obama's decision, a guy wrote a blog post saying, I demand my donation money back, and until Obama reverses his mind on this decision, I demand my money back. and I might not even vote for him. This guy got 20,000 people to sign onto his blog post and join his group, demanding their donation back. This was not 20,000 people signing a random petition on the internet. This is 20,000 people on our doorstep. This is basically like having a crowd of people literally in your living room telling you what to do, right? So we had sort of a crisis on our hands. What are we going to do with all of these angry people who are protesting literally on our very website? So there were a few options. Well, there was a giant red delete button that was very tempting to press, that I could have pressed if I wanted to and delete that group. That would have been the stupidest possible thing to do. Because if you try to delete anything on the internet, it basically repeats itself 1,000-fold. There's a famous story about the singer Barbra Streisand, who tried to sue a blogger who had taken a photo of her lake house. And the blogger took down the photo, but 1,000 other angry people who were angry that she was censoring the blogger reposted the photo. So millions of people saw this thing that would have never seen it otherwise. You can look this up on Wikipedia. It's called the Streisand effect. I didn't want a Streisand effect. I didn't want 100,000 people to join this group. So we went to Obama. We told him what happened. And Obama said, I'm going to write a letter to these people. And Obama didn't give it to one of his young speechwriters. He wrote it himself. And it wasn't just, a perfunctory thing with the usual language. It was a long letter. He explained in detail why he had changed his mind. And he said something very interesting. He said, you know what? I'm glad that you guys put this protest on my website because it shows me how strong you guys are, how strong activists you are, how good you are at community organizing. You brought together 20,000 people and you got my attention. And you're exactly the kind of supporters that I need on my campaign. I need you guys. Please don't abandon the campaign. I'm listening to you. I respect you. I'm going to stay with my position on this. I'm not going to change my mind, but I want to let you know that I listen to you and I respect you. And I actually met the guy who started this group at a conference a couple years ago. And I asked him, what did you think of this? And he said, you know what? We were so happy that for the first time, a politician listened and responded in a thoughtful way, that almost all of us said you can keep the donations, and many of us, including me, doubled our donations because we felt so respected. By the way, these are a couple of Obama's top policy staffers now in the White House making major decisions about national security, who are sitting at my messy desk responding for an hour to different questions and comments on Obama's blog posts. This is how seriously we took communicating with even our biggest critics. Another key principle that helped us raise $500 million was the fact that we didn't treat people like bank machines. We actually never really talked about money in our fundraising appeals. We made it about something bigger, about participating and owning a piece of history. That's the way that we talked about it. One of the big campaigns that we had was trying to get 1 million people to give a donation to the campaign. We didn't care if they gave $5 or $500. We just wanted them to participate. A lot of nonprofit organizations, they have a fundraising goal of $1 million. We hated that kind of goal because that doesn't inspire people. Help us reach $1 million. What inspires people is help us reach 1 million people. So this is the kind of language we use. We're within striking distance of our goal of 1 million people owning a piece of this campaign, not donating to, owning a piece of this campaign. And every single person getting involved makes a difference. We're succeeding because our campaign has always been about bringing new people into the process. Not about getting new people to shoot money at us like a bank, but bringing new people into the process. It was much bigger than just giving a donation. It was owning a piece of history. One of the key fundraising strategies we had was to create moments. Sometimes nothing's happening to inspire people, so you have to make something up. There was a period in the campaign that was during the summer of 2007. Obama wasn't doing so well in the polls. No one was really paying attention, so we created this idea called Dinner with Barack. In the past, the only way you could have dinner with a presidential candidate like Barack Obama was to be extremely wealthy and you would get invited to a fancy dinner at some millionaire's house, and they would have all sorts of small forks and spoons and tons of different appetizers, and you would cut a giant check. We said, let's turn that on its head. Anyone who donates $5 can be entered into a raffle to have dinner with the president at an exclusive fancy restaurant. We treated the smallest donor like the richest donor, and it paid off. It worked really well.
I went on YouTube once. I don't go real often. It's just to see what was being sort of generated under my name. Some of them were pretty creative. There's some cartoon, and your ears are all huge. It's interesting being in the public eye like that. Michelle always jokes about this. She says, I see this guy on TV, Barack Obama. He seems like a really interesting guy, but he doesn't always match up with the guy who's sitting next to me on the couch, or snoring in bed.
The other kind of moment is not a moment that you create artificially, it's a moment that you take advantage of. And this is even more important. This is the most important kind of moment. And the way that you do this is you have to be flexible, you have to be open to quick change, and you have to be ready to respond. On the internet, news, the best way to mobilize people is to get them the second some big event happens. And one of the saddest things that I've seen in my work as a consultant for organizations is, for example, a big charity organization that did hurricane relief, they sent out a fundraising email 2 days after the hurricane. Why? Because they had to get it approved by about 18 different people. The communications director, 5 different lawyers, and you know how long lawyers take to look at every single word. We had a nimbleness, we had a flexibility. We had one person approving these messages, David Plouffe. So we had this crazy moment where, does everyone know who this is? Sarah Palin, right? You guys like her? Okay. Sarah Palin attacked Barack Obama. I don't have time to show this video, but she said she was criticizing his record, saying he wasn't prepared to be president. And she said being a small-town mayor, which she used to be in Alaska, being a small-town mayor is kind of like being a community organizer, except you have actual responsibilities. That's what she said. So she said, what is a community organizer? That's crap. That's no kind of qualification. And I remember when she said that, I looked at my boss and I said, did she just attack community organizers? We had not had a plan to send out an email that night. We actually weren't going to send out an email, but we decided to send out an email immediately. And we said, I wasn't planning on sending you something tonight. This is from David Plouffe, our campaign manager. But if you saw what I saw from the Republican convention, you know it demands a response. I saw John McCain's attack squad of negative, cynical politicians. They lied about Barack Obama and Joe Biden, and they attacked you for being a part of this campaign. We turned the attack on Obama into an attack on you. This email raised $13 million in 24 hours. It was the most, by far, that had ever been raised in a 24-hour period. The way we did it is because we had spent a year and a half talking every day about this concept of community organizing, telling people that they were community organizers, telling people that it wasn't enough just to say, oh, I love Obama, I support Obama. No, you have to act like Obama. You have to become a community organizer. You have to become a version of Obama. So when Sarah Palin attacked community organizers, she was attacking every single person who was involved in the movement, and they responded dramatically. $13 million in 24 hours. So we were able to raise all this money from an email list of 13 million people, which is about 4 times bigger than the previously biggest email list. It's a lot of people. 2/3 of the donations from the entire campaign were raised online. Most of them were from ordinary people giving $100 or less. And the most important factor in my mind is that the average donor gave more than twice. Remember what I said earlier, there isn't a culture of giving to politicians. There's a deep skepticism and cynicism about giving, but our average donor was giving more than twice. Some people were giving 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. That's a profound level of trust. That is a deep relationship that we built with our supporters, and it was based on something much bigger than money. Probably the most critical factor in getting Obama elected, of course, is getting people to vote. The way we were able to beat Hilary Clinton was we trusted people to use technology to organize on their own, even when we didn't have enough money to have paid staffers train them. Hillary Clinton's campaign didn't have this kind of trust in their supporters. We allowed them to build grassroots groups on mybaracobama.com in places like Idaho, small states, rural states, where we simply didn't have the money to create a new office there and put staff on the ground. But we gave people mybaracobama.com. They met each other online. They used our phone calling tool to make calls. They started organizing themselves. By the time the election happened, we did send in people a few weeks before the election who were paid staffers, and they said, I don't even really have any work to do. These people have already done the job themselves. They organized themselves. We beat Hilary Clinton in Idaho 35-7 in terms of delegates. We won every single one of these small states because we gave people mybaracobama.com, and they organized by themselves without staff supervision. We trusted them. We treated them like adults. We gave them the keys to the car, and they drove us to victory. The last point I want to make is about testing. A lot of what I've been talking about is storytelling, building these relationships with our supporters, having this kind of creative spirit, this creative energy that trickled through the campaign, this creative, authentic energy. But we also had a scientific mentality about everything we did. And we tested everything. And I really mean everything. We tested every single button on barackobama.com. The donate button. Is it better if it's red or blue or pink or green? Actually, red is the best color if you ever want to make a donate button. Is it better to say donate now or donate please or donate tomorrow? Obviously not donate tomorrow. Donate now is the best, right? We tested every single one of these iterations. We were able to raise another $70 million just by tweaking buttons on the homepage. But I learned a sort of humbling thing early on in the campaign. I created a video, which I'll show you now to conclude my presentation, that I thought was really going to inspire people and get people involved. I created it the day before the Iowa election, which is what made Obama eventually go on to win the presidency. The purpose of the video was to take all of the most inspiring campaign footage, throw on some inspiring music, and get people to get really excited the day before the election. So I'll show you the video.
Now, even as we speak, there are those who are preparing to divide us. The spin masters, the negative ad peddlers, who embrace the politics of anything goes. Well, I say to them tonight, there is not a liberal America and a conservative America. There is the United States of America. There is not a black America and a white America and Latino America and Asian America. There's the United States of America. The pundits like to slice and dice our country into red states and blue states. Red states for Republicans, blue states for Democrats. But I've got news for them too. We worship an awesome God in the blue states, and we don't like federal agents poking around in our libraries in the red states. We coach Little League in the blue states, and yes, we've got some gay friends in the red states. There are patriots who opposed the war in Iraq, and there are patriots who supported the war in Iraq. We are one people, all of us pledging allegiance to the Stars and Stripes, all of us defending the United States of America. In the end, that's what this election is about. Do we participate in a politics of cynicism, or do we participate in a politics of hope? One voice can change a room. And if one voice can change a room, then it can change a city. And if it can change a city, it can change a state. And if it can change a state, it can change a nation. And if it can change a nation, it can change the world. Your voice can change the world.
All right, so, by the way, I apologize for the quality of the video. It's taken right from YouTube. That's the only copy that exists. There was no high-quality copy. Again, this is something I did quickly in a few hours before the campaign, but it got a big response, 1 million views on YouTube. I went to my boss. I said, let's put this on our donation page. We're going to get a lot of money out of this video. People are going to be really inspired. And he said, wait, we're going to do a test. 50% of the people who come to BarackObama.com will see your video. The other 50% are going to see this boring family photo of the Obama family together. Guess what did way better? The boring photo did 50% better than my video. That was a humbling experience. I understood that at the end of the day, I don't really know what's in the heart of our grassroots supporters. I have to listen. I have to combine the spirit of an artist and the spirit of a scientist. And that's the key to victory. So in conclusion, we were able to build these meaningful relationships. We put people to work, having them take concrete actions, and we were able to make history. And now it's your chance. So thanks very much.